But I tell you what, through all the bad, it is imperative that we remember, that we reflect upon why it is that we should remain grateful, at the very least have grateful moments. Because what I'm not saying about gratefulness and thankfulness, what people often recoil towards and what they presume is that if you meditate and reflect upon why you should be thankful, why you should be grateful, why you should be appreciative and humble, they have this fear that they will then lose their desire to achieve their goals. They will become complacent. They'll become some kind of pussy, essentially. And, you know, if you have ambition, unless you really seek to dive inward and uproot the weeds of your ambition, if you want to look at it like that, it's unlikely that it'll go away. What we tend to have are moments. Don't you have moments of lustfulness and moments that are completely void of lustfulness? Don't you have moments of hunger and for actual food, and then that goes away? Moments of sleepiness, drowsiness, fatigue, and then that goes away. Moments where you feel super energized and as if you could take on the world. And then moments where you feel like the world could just tip you over with its fucking pinky. Everything is this seesaw of mode and being, seasons that come extremely quickly. So don't fear. If you, in my experience, I'll speak from my first person experience. When I meditate upon that which I'm thankful for, because I so often forget, I so often suffer from that amnesia of why I should be grateful. When I meditate on that, it alleviates and unburdens me temporarily, as everything else is temporary. It relieves me of levels of stress. It helps me restart, reboot, so that I can again walk towards, run towards, sprint towards my goals. We look to different kinds of things to help reboot us. You could take a nap. For some people, though, that makes them feel even more groggy and whatnot. You can have a healthy conversation with a friend. You could do some exercise. You can have a nourishing meal. You can fast. You can do a lot of things. But a lot of things we do, though, are destructive. They have significant lingering negative consequences. One thing that I constantly mention, because I think it's done way too much, is the getting the shit faced. A lot of people, that's their ritual. And, you know, you work hard, play hard. If that would be totally fine in my eyes, if it did not obliterate certain aspects of your well-being, if it did not threaten to prevent you from being the well-rounded person that you would like to be, where you to have all the clarity in the world for a moment, and you were able to decide what kind of person do I want to be, and you saw clearly that getting shit-faced on a consistent basis wasn't to your benefit ultimately, you probably wouldn't do it. But we're mindless, we're on autopilot. And also, you know, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, you know what, this is so crazy. I remember when I used to work in Maryland, and I used to be up all night online gaming, and I would get literally like an hour of sleep before going to work. I remember that I really truly did that consciously, purposely, and I preferred going to work zombified and bereft of my optimal energy. I preferred to go to work numb and tired and fatigued, and to go about the motions of work in a autopilot zombified way. That was preferred over the times when I would go there super rested and feeling really good. Why? Because all my senses were super sharp. My awareness was optimal. And then so every negative thing about my workplace was like nails on a chalkboard. I'd rather be numbed. So I get the numb. I'm not mad at the numb. Our numbing is a way for us to deal with the bullshittiest of bullshit that is our typical day with these typical people with their typical behavior. And typical is not bad. It's just our version of what typical is bad. What we have been conditioned to accept as typical tends to be bad because it is informed massively by mindlessness, by indifference, by apathy, by antagonistic behavior and hostility, and we are supposed to just suck it up and act like we're not humans. We're supposed to act like we don't have an interest in well-being. Your body on autopilot wants to return to a state of goodness. Do you not think that your mind and what we call the soul doesn't have that same interest? My point was meant to be, though, that we, every now and then, because as human beings, no matter how, I feel like you could be the best, sweetest kind of nice person, but we all need to sit back and take moments to reflect upon as much as we can. And what I mean is just the basics, just some basic things. For example, a place that my mind often goes to is, I could have been born at a period of time where I could have been a slave. I could have been born in a period of time in a different body, in a different race, where I would have been the son of maybe a Ku Klux Klan master, and I would have been racist and wanting to kill people of color. I could have been born as a victim of Genghis Khan. I could have been born in Japan, and I could have been bombed by the U.S.'s nuclear attack. I could have existed in the Twin Towers in 9/11. I could have been a little fucking girl who was trapped in the basement of some psychopath. We don't look at it like that because I think our imaginations refuse to allow us to think, to process the possibility that we could have been. Even if you don't want to go there, that you could be somebody else, and that's just too much to think about, or it just doesn't compute. You could have been a victim of these same kinds of atrocities, except for luck, good fortune. But you know what the insidious thing about the way that many of us perceive good fortune? You know what the issue is with that? A lot of us think that our good fortune is due to our actions. And some of your good fortune is, but a lot of your good fortune is just due to fucking dumb luck. And also your genetics. Whatever thing that you would consider to be good about you, my ability to communicate, articulate, I do acknowledge, and I do often tell people that I had to work really, really hard on my communication skills. I wasn't always good at that, but then on the other hand, I kind of was a little bit too. I had a disposition towards. I was thinking about the past, even when I grew up in New Orleans. And there were several instances where adults at random times and people would comment on my ability to articulate my words. And so I get that there was a there already, and I had nourished it. Just like my awareness and my insightfulness, whatever was there, I chose to nourish it and feed it and try to strengthen it. And so I can't take credit for being who I am 100%. I'll take credit for trying my best to put in effort to beat the odds, so to speak, to not allow certain obstructions of personality and obstructions of circumstance to prevent me from being the person I'd like to be. But, I'm not going to get all into determinism and free will, but I will say that a lot of what you are, a lot of what's awesome about you, it's not of your own creation ultimately. You're not the ultimate author of who you are and yourself. You weren't, and nor did you choose the environment that you grew up in. Nor did you choose to be born. That doesn't mean we can't enjoy life. That doesn't mean we should not try to make the best of our situation. Because nor did you choose your faults. If I could take a pill to be exactly who I wanted to be, no more, no less, and that pill had no side effects, I would take that pill. But then it'd be on some One Punch Man kind of stuff. If anybody's unfamiliar, One Punch Man is this anime where he wants to be a hero, this guy, and then he ends up becoming so strong, and he becomes a hero. But he's so strong now that he could beat enemies in one punch, and there's no struggle, there's no challenge, and he's bored. The spirit of the challenge has left the building, and he's left being all powerful, and he finds it to be extremely monotonous and mundane. The same way that you would if you set out to kill ants and just stomp on each one and eventually be like, this is stupid. It's so easy to kill ants. For him, it's so easy to kill monsters. There's nothing there. And so my point is that even if it's so counterintuitive, because I tell myself I don't want this struggle I don't want to fight to be. At times I feel this way. It's so hard to be the human being I'd like to be on a consistent basis. But when I think about if I was this perfect creature, then I would feel like another, again, nerding out a bit, I suppose. I'd feel like Dr. Manhattan and Watchmen. I would probably just move to an isolated portion of the planet. He went to fucking Mars or something. I'd say peace out, because I don't know if I would even be motivated to persuade people, to influence people. I think what motivates me and persuades me is that I see that we can be better than our shortcomings, than our defectiveness, than our dysfunctionality. And so that motivates me highly to want to preach to people this good news to them. Because even though I feel like I'm not great, I could be so much worse. Were I to not try to harness and exercise the habits and the practices that I recommend. My main goal, we're talking about this, was for it to be a refresher course. To remind you that don't assume that you, just because you grasp the concept that you should be grateful, don't assume that just because you know in your heart that you have it so much better than people in third world countries, than people throughout history. Don't let that make you think that you don't need to marinate on that, though. Don't let that make you think it wouldn't benefit you to reflect upon it in silence. Put your timer on for 20 minutes just to think about that, how to even think about the fact that you want to be thankful. Even just communicating that to yourself and reflecting upon the fact that I would like to be even more thankful than I am. And again, because thankfulness is like a good meal. You remember that book? I never read that book, but Chicken Soup for the Christian Soul or whatever, or Chicken Soup for the Soul. To me, reflections upon such virtues, they nourish you the same way a good meal does. And I can't stress enough that it's temporary. And we need to acknowledge that nourishment, that feeling of recognition, and that sense of tranquility and peace, and that perspective that feels realigned. We have to remember that everything is decaying. Everything is falling apart. Even your perspectives, even your notions and your supposed belief system. You must constantly reinforce. You must constantly seek literature and discussion that challenges that forgetfulness and that deterioration, that helps glue it back together, that helps rebuild it. It's a fight. It's a constant fight. And, I think it's worth it, because being in a mode, being in a state of being where you are thankful and grateful and your perspective is solid, to me, it's just markedly better. It's leaps and bounds away from that zombified place. Now, it will make you at odds with your surroundings and certain people. It will. It will. Just like certain religions would, were you to truly believe in them. A lot of people now just kind of cherry pick whatever they want to believe with their particular religions. Fine. Were I to truly believe in scripture, were I to truly, and I'm talking about Christian scripture, were I to truly be on some Christian stuff, I would be at odds with people too. I would still be at odds with this world. I would be, I'd probably be trying to, I'd probably be knocking on people's doors. I'd probably be on the street corner trying to preach to people, worried about their souls, especially right now. The thing is, what's funny is that I'm still worried about people's souls, but in a different way. I'm not worried that you or I are going to a place called hell. I'm more so worried that you and I are ignoring the hell that's within us right here and now. And we don't want to admit that the flames within us, we allow them to burn the people around us. And we allow the flames within us to get the best of us. And it just deteriorates us and makes it that much harder every day, every week, to cool down, to become a better person, to not be tortured to not be scarred by those flames. We have to make a choice, and it's better late than never. Always better late than never. All right.